Hola all, welcome back to Soul Mechanics. This video is going to be speaking about sensory perception, so we can begin by getting a little practice with that by feeling the seat of your ass touching down. Now, this is a quick detour. Obviously, I lied in the last video. I'm sorry. I built up this big thing about how I was gonna get into the cool shit in the next video, but I have to do this first. It is an inspiration on the spot. So let's begin by just thinking about. I'm gonna go ahead and bet that most of you out there really have absolutely no idea whatsoever how much shit actually goes on in what you experience as being just here and now. Like the faculties of your senses, and I have backup for this video. I had to get backup because I can't, I a lot of this shit about how senses work I don't even really know, and what I do know is way too much to explain in the video. So I have backup. I am gonna put links in here to a very clever guy who has awesome videos explaining how the senses work. His whole channel is fucking amazing. It's a crash course. He does crash courses in psychology, psychiatry. He does crash courses in philosophy. Dude's fucking banging. He's a really cool guy, and his videos are excellent. So check him out. But it's called Crash Course, I think. But yeah, there's so much that goes into every sensory perception you have that it's just incalculable. It's astounding how much time is actually spent. Like if we're looking at time as being what it really is, time is change, time is action, time is happening. It's something happening, and there is so much happening, regarding how your senses operate, like little stimulators and receptors and just fucking all kinds of shit going on. And for anybody that, especially the atheist folk out there who seem to, they don't believe that there is, in fact, an intelligent design in play, I should like to state that, dude, you have, like, a stereo sound system with multiple musical instruments built into your fucking head right now. You have the most sophisticated recording equipment. Like, you think that this just built itself with no instruction. Like, there are particles in play that make up reality, and they pop all over the place. They do the craziest shit. Like, they just vanish. They pop up out of nowhere. They actually, some of them are capable of moving what we think is backward in time, which is actually forward. And you think that these things are just have no intelligence or consciousness at all? Like, they had to learn to do that. It's been billions and billions of years. What you call evolution, specifically for the atheist folk, what you call evolution, what you think is evolution. Evolution had to learn to do that. Like, it's pretty fucking obvious. Like, I don't know how you can go about believing that there is no, like, you don't think there's consciousness in play. Like, you have consciousness. You are consciousness. That's self-evident. Anyways, so, the senses. I'm going to try to pull off a kind of a magic trick here and just sort of steal all of your senses away from you. I mentioned before in the 6 sense video that we're going to go ahead and break everything down to 1 sense, and that's what I'm going to try and do here. Now, I did also mention that we had 13 senses in play, and I was going to speak to all of them. Now, I'm not going to bullshit you. I am not going to do that because, honestly, we don't fucking know what all 13 of them are yet, and that's part of the investigation. But we are presuming that there's going to be 13 primary senses because there are 13 primary everything else. And again, it's a cosmological scenario wherein everything is a microcosm or macrocosm. Everything is built on the same system. It all comes back to that same program. So where there are 7 primary chakras, 13 outlet chakras, I suppose you could say, ultimately 13 overall that make up the human system. Considering that everything else follows suit, we're going to presume that there are 13 primary senses because we know that there are more than 7. Now, you have, let's start off, we're not going to put them in any particular order, but we'll start off with touch. Touch is, as I've stated before, you don't actually touch anything. You cannot actually touch anything. Like, there is a kind of a repelling force in play. You could say it's magnetics. Everything is a magnetic force ultimately, and when you like place your hand on an object, sort of, I mean, what you experience is placing your hand on an object or stepping on the ground or what have you, that there's a space between that you can't breach. It's like, we think of it as being a repelling force, but I mean, ultimately it's like nothing. It's just an empty space that is impenetrable. You can't get through that. And that right there, the fact that that is happening, that presents a very significant value that speaks to the nature of existence overall, the nature of reality as it's happening. And I'm not going to get into it here. I'm going to hope that some of you might be able to spot it on your own. But that's a very, very significant and concerning value. Now, it's speaking something. There's a reason why that happens. It's not just autonomic. There's a reason behind everything that happens. That's what values are made of, reason. So, you don't actually touch anything, but you feel the vibrations that come off of it because you have receptors in your skin that they pick up on this vibration, which they pick up on other things we consider, but everything is made of vibration. You have to keep that in mind. Everything is made. Again, as I've stated so many times, it seems that people tend to think that everything is made of light, right? But light itself is made of sound. Everything is made of sound. It's a vibration, and it's just action. It's some kind of an action. It's time, essentially. It is the appropriation of time. Like, there's one point, then there's another point, and it fucking jumps back and forth, and it becomes a time. That's what the fabric of reality is. This vibration, this sound, the word becomes flesh. Now, so you have that sense of touch, and in fact, you can extend that via tactile imaging, what we call tactile imaging. You can feel things around you. You can pick up on the vibrations of things around you, and you can extend your sense of touch and feel things around you. So tactile imaging could be considered another sense, so to speak, but really it's just your sense of touch. And you can use this to perform such actions as psychokinesis, wherein you can actually move objects with this feeling, with your sense of touch, an extension of your sense of touch. You can actually move objects. I'm pretty sure, we don't know exactly how it works, but I've done it before, and it seems to be that it's a kind of a static electricity discharge that actually does it. So we'll get in. I'll do a video teaching how to practice that. It's tedious. Anyways, you have a sense of sight and sound. These are very similar, just as your sense of taste and scent are very, very similar. They're picking up on the same thing. Sound, light. Light is the vibration. It's the wavelength. And you have receptors in your eyes in the cones and rods. It's the cones that are going to be red, blue, and green, essentially, is the primary colors. And we're pretty sure that's all that's really there, is red, blue, and green. But it picks up on contrast between them. But as I've stated before, you don't actually see color. There is no actual color in the real world. It's all just an illusion. It's an optical illusion created by contrast of the grayscale, which is what the rods pick up on. Rods just pick up on the grayscale, and they activate the cones, which have the 3 red, blue, and green, and create a contrast effect creates color. But, you know, like I said, I have a color deficiency, so I'm seeing different colors in people. That's because there is no actual color. My eyes are receiving it in a certain way. They don't have, you know, as much of it as of a certain color as other people, so they see something else. In fact, some colors I don't see at all. I see it as like a holographic silverish sheen, like the hologram cards we used to get, you know, like cool X-Men cards and shit. But so that's the sound. Obviously, is going to be picking up on vibration, and you know, it's like you have musical instruments built into your motherfucking head attached to a stereo sound system that translates in the brain. The brain ultimately is just like a transceiver that kind of, it does anything and everything. It's like a multi-purpose computing system that just, it actually learns to do whatever it needs to do on the spot. And that's just, it's so magnificent. It's just amazing. And for fuck's sake, there are people out there, you're going to tell me that you don't think that has intelligence, that there wasn't intelligent design behind the building of that? You're fucking crazy. Dude, you're crazy. Like, actually. Literally crazy. Not like, I'm not fucking around with you there. You're crazy. So, like, you have a psychological issue, is what I'm saying. So yeah, sight and sound are very similar. They're both picking up on wavelengths, so they're picking up on vibrations, and they're translating them in the brain. But, I mean, again, you have this fucking camera on your head that, holy shit, is it, like, beyond our capacity? We couldn't create something as sophisticated as this, but not even given 100 years from now, probably. Or, like, we'll never figure out how this built itself. It's fucking crazy. And people who claim to know how they did, how it built itself, especially the evolution enthusiasts, don't fucking kiss my ass. Don't go fuck yourself. You don't know a damn thing. You're lying through your fucking teeth. Most people are. It's something you need to keep in mind, especially, you know, any of the new students who are, you know, the initiates who are taking this as a training protocol. You need to keep in mind that what people teach you in the world, what you've been taught in modern education and shit, the educational system, especially where it concerns science, they don't know a lot of what they say they do. It's just people have that false sense of ego where they want to tell you that they know everything. You know, we got it all down and we understand everything, but every fucking day something that they know is going to change. They don't actually know anything. They're making it up, and I mean, that they know some things. We have some things down. We know we got to where we are, obviously, but you know, there's a lot that they just kind of claim to know, and that could be considered another sense, but I'll get into that anyways. So then you have the sense of taste and smell, which are pretty much the same thing. It's just two differing receptors that pick up on the same sensation, which again is just created by frequency. And so you're not, like, all of these things they're just different receptors that are picking up on the same thing. But what is that thing? It's vibration, ultimately. It's time, but we'll get into that in a minute. Anyways, so your sixth sense, obviously, as I've stated before, is humor, which your sense of humor is so important. It governs everything. It dictates your sense of attitude in general. It dictates your sense of acceptance, your sense of tolerance. It's just like everything that creates your personality is going to be, you know, you could say that your sense of humor is almost like a sense of judgment, in fact. It's not just, you know, what makes you laugh. It's how you handle things, how your person perceives or receives and just generally considers anything. Like, any situation is determined. The way that you respond or react or feel about a situation is going to be determined by your sense of humor. Then your sense of direction or trajectory is going to be the seventh. You have a sense of direction, which you can train, and you can know generally what direction you're moving in, or what direction, you know, directions around you for the most part. But it's really your sense of trajectory, which as I've stated before, is kind of like that's the other 90% of your brain that's operating. Like if you walk across the street, you see a bunch of cars coming, and you manage to walk directly through, the path, which obviously this is not foolproof. People get hit by fucking cars. I've gotten hit by cars so many times, and honestly, it's like I've been fucking hit dead on, full speed, thrown off my bike across the motherfucking street, and gotten right back up unfazed. Like, I don't know how that happens. I'm gonna go ahead and guess that, again, coming back to the Kundalini impulse, must have strengthened me to some degree, because can I take some fucking blows. That dude, when those three guys jumped me, that dude he kept hitting me as hard as he could. Like, he backed up and threw into me as hard as he could. And it took, like, I don't know how many, fucking 20 to 30 fucking hits to do the damage he did, which was minimal. So, I mean, that's something to consider. That very well could be caused by the heightened metabolism. Anyways, so your sensor trajectory is like, how you catch a ball, or just how you how your brain determines the timing of things, and can think backwards and calculate things in reverse, because you are experiencing everything in reverse. That's what we'll get to that in the very next video. I promise. We're gonna pin that one down for you, but you have that sense of trajectory in play. You also have a sense of empathy, which empathy is not just considering other people's emotions or identifying with other people's feelings. Empathy is your general sense of emotion ultimately overall, because you are not your body. Like, your body is a secondary component to what you are. You could say it's like a vehicle that you're operating, but again, consciousness and matter are the same thing. So there is no actual differentiation between the two in ultimate reality. You are the body ultimately, but as it stands, the considerations that we make and how we play the game, how we understand things in general, no, you're not the body. You are an influential mechanism in the body, or for the body. But your body actually moves around, and it does things on its own. It has habits, it has programs that it runs, subroutines and such, that your body kind of intuits what to do, and it does it. And you pretty much, what you actually are is just this influential entity that's kind of directing the body to a certain extent. And how well you can direct your body, how well you can fuse with your body, become one with it, and actually act on the spot as it happens, as reality is transpiring, and perceive what's happening. You can perceive all the little mechanisms that are transpiring. The more that you can perceive, the more that you can keep track of your attention span, essentially, that coming back to the concept of personal mind control, where the body and the mind are one again. So that mind control, where we talk about mind control, we're talking about controlling yourself, having full operative manual control of yourself and how your body and your persona are operating. And that's going to determine your sense of presence, really. And this is coming back to the concept of lucidity, being awake and aware, because again, your body's moving around on its own. Life is happening on its own. The world is alive and speaking to you, but you're kind of, most people are separated from it. They don't see it as being a part of themselves. They don't understand what's actually happening. Most people are living in a fucking dream, an illusion. They're tricked by just so many distractions. So those really are the senses that I'm able to cover at the moment. I can't really think of any more at the moment. You have a sense of proprioception. That's a real thing, but that fits into your sense of direction, or your sense of presence, really. And then, your sense of humor, your sense of trajectory, and fuck, man, I did know another one, but the point is that ultimately, overall, you have a sense of intuition. And we've spoken to how intuition operates, but we haven't really spoken to what it is. I mentioned that, everything is a placebo effect, that the chemicals, compounds that determine what happens in your body, the chemical responses in your body and in your brain, and, the very particles that make up existence, they're just patterns. They're just patterns of the same thing, and the different configurations determine how they're perceived, but that's what they are. They're just this time. They're just this substance. And so everything that happens, everything that your body does is a placebo effect. It's a psychosomatic response because there is no actual special something causing anything to happen. It's all the same thing, and it's just the configurations that come in, your body responds to them based on what the pattern of it is, the symmetry or the geometry of it. It's coming back to sacred geometry, what that actually is, what it means. But given that being the fact, essentially you have this sense of intuition, and you're intuiting what to do. You're intuiting what is happening, and you are intuiting what your senses are perceiving. Like, they're not, the senses are just perceiving these patterns, and you don't really know what they are. The one thing that people who study up on senses and neurophysiology are going to tell you all the time is that humans have a real problem with discerning reality. Like, that's our main the problem that our brain has and our persona has, is that we don't really identify with the nature of reality so well. That's the tricky part that we can't understand, but some of us do. And they speak to the brain evolving to the point where it can understand that, but this is not really so much of a physiological evolution as it is a personal. It's an evolution of your value system. It's an evolution of how you consider yourself. And again, coming back to that first-person perspective, you can, in fact, discern the nature of reality. And as I've stated before, that it can be very scary. Things happen that are terrifying. But ultimately, your sense of humor is going to dictate how you respond to it, because your sense of intuition is what is making everything happen. You're just intuiting. You're kind of pretending. Everything that happens that you consider to be reality, it's just a pretense. It's you pretending to understand something that you don't. And that's why your intuition is really the only sense that you have, because you're kind of just making it up as you go along. And your body has these habits. It's habitual in the sense that when you perceive senses, that's just a routine. That's just, it's pretending to know something because it's happened repeatedly, but you can alter that. And we'll get into that in the following videos. But for now, we're out of time. Thank you for watching. Keelah, Taerve, siari, Namasté.